morning, my name's Clyde Fenton. I'm the Sebastian County Ag Agent. I'm going to take a few minutes today and show you something that a few people have asked me to kind of do a video on. I call it my trash bag gardening, but it's a way that you can go out in your yard and dig up a section of lawn and actually put some garden plants in and not be overwhelmed by the weeds and be able to hold moisture well. Anyway, we're going to get into this right away and show you step by step how to do it. All right, this is where we're going to set up our trash bag gardening. Just to show you quickly what I've got. I took and demoed a little spot here. I've got a single tomato there in a little section of lawn. Now today, for convenience sake, we're going to be in this worked area, but it was all worked by hand, so this can be done in your yard. But right there in front of us is the hill, kind of preformed. Anyway, we will get going. Our material list is this. You've got your place. You're going to need a shovel to shape your row. You're going to need a rake to further shape your row and smooth it out, get it all the way you want it. The shovel will also be used to cut the edges, and I'll show you that in a minute. In addition to that, of course, the name of the video, Trash Bag Gardening, I've got a trash bag. It happens to be a 38-gallon trash bag. I will slice up the edges of it and lay it open, and that will be my piece of plastic. But 38 gallons makes a nice little bed that you can grow 2 or 3 or 4 plants, depending on what you're growing. If you're growing spinach, you could probably grow 30 of them in this. Another item, it's not coffee. I've got some 19 in here. We've done soil samples on this ground, and it needs phosphorus, potassium, and nitrogen, so we're going to put a light sprinkling of 19 on this bed when we get it shaped. Another item, and this is optional, but it sure makes it convenient. I happen to be using a type of drip tape here, which I can hook up to a garden hose. You can use soaker hose, but if you lay that under your plastic before you put the dirt over the edge of your plastics, you can hook a hose up to that and very conveniently water those vegetables. All right, we're going to get moving on how to do this. I'm going to start with a shovel. I've got loose dirt here, and I'm going to bring it all up in a nice little mound in a line here. I'm going to go down one side. I'm going to come over here. We're going to bring up some dirt. Okay, that is basically our bed roughed in. We're going to go across the end here, get a little more on it. All right, now this is an opportunity to smooth it all out. You take your rake. I like to kind of straighten up the lines, and so I go along here and pull the dirt up evenly. You know, I come back on this side, do the same thing, bring up my dirt. Now I have a nice mound, a little higher than I really need it, but we're going to level it now. This is also a great opportunity. See all the things that were in the sod, Bermuda grass roots. I get a lot of that out with a rake, and that's helpful too, because those things will start to grow once they have moisture. So we're smoothing out our row. When we're finished, kind of looks like a box that tapers down to the ground, sitting on top of the ground. Get it nice and flat. The plastic will lay much nicer if it's good and flat. It helps if there's some moisture in the soil. You can do it completely dry, but your soil shapes better if there's a little moisture in it. All right, our next step is going to be our fertilizer. Now, something I want to say about fertilizer. It's real easy to think that if a little's good, a lot is better. This is 19. It means it's 19% of each of those things I mentioned: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash or potassium. A lot of times when you get a recommendation from the University of Arkansas from a soil sample, it's telling you a pound or 2 per 1,000 square feet oftentimes on a garden. So on a little plot like this, we're talking a very little fertilizer. I've got like a half a handful, and I'm just gonna amend it nicely like that. Now, probably be better if you wore gloves when you handle fertilizer. Wipe the fertilizer off. All right, because I'm using the T-tape, my next step is to get this T-tape laid across the top of the row. And you don't have to worry about it. It can be straightened up under the plastic later. My next step, and this is where people I think often struggle. They're like, man, I've tried to lay plastic and it blows away on me. It's really important that the plastic be relatively tight and that it be tucked in very nicely on each edge. And it took me a long time to learn this. I had a lot of plastic blow away before I got this down. But I learned that if I came back and I cut my edges, and I'm making a nice square edge, you can't see it real well, but probably 4 to 5 inches deep. So I'm almost ending up with a trench along my row. Now what I've got is a trench that I can lay that plastic in, and then I've got loose dirt on the outside of that trench that I can push over that plastic. We're going to do the same thing over here. One thing that's kind of important is make sure that your row is narrow enough that you can get enough plastic covered on the edges. If you try to make your row too wide and the plastic isn't well covered, it's going to get away from you. So we're going to make sure this row is approximately the same width as the one I did previously. I'm actually narrowing it a little bit more because I felt like it would have been better to have a little more dirt over the edge of the plastic. Now I can see here I've got a wider spot eyeballing it, so I'm going to trim a little bit there. So you're going to want the end covered well too, so we're going to carefully pull out some dirt here, and we're right up against that other one, but that'll be fine. But we've got a place to start. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my bag. Remember I said this is a 38-gallon trash bag. It's a nice size. One of the nice things about trash bags is because of the way they're folded, you end up with lines on it. That helps you line up when you're laying your plastic too, but we're going to get the end of it. We're going to chase it down to the bottom of this bag. So we're going right down this fold here, right to the base of the bag. I've got a utility knife here. Unfortunately, it needs new blades, so it's kind of dull. Scissors work very nicely for this. You don't have to use a utility knife, but I basically poke it through there and I follow that seam up. Keep checking myself because I've wandered off that seam before. And you want it as straight as possible so that your plastic lays evenly. Okay, we're near the top of one side. All right, we got one side open. We're going to chase the seam down the other side, like this, right down to the corner. Like I said, scissors work very nicely for this as well, but this is what I had today. We're following up that seam. It doesn't matter if you wander a little bit on one side or the other of it, but use that fold line as your guide. All right, we are there. Fold that knife up so I don't cut myself on it. All right, now what we've got is we've got a long rectangular piece of plastic. I like to put the seam at the bottom of the bag down. That way you end up with a nice smooth surface, but we're going to lay this on this. All right, we're going to get down on our knees here. Oh, I see a little grass sticking out the corners. I'm going to get that out of there because I don't want to deal with it later. All right, now, as I said, very, very important that your plastic be tucked and adequately covered. So we're pulling, oh, I don't know, 2 or 3 inches of dirt over the edge of the plastic here. We're going to line it up. The nice thing about this is I have a fold line that goes down either corner of the hill I've created. So I'm going to get my dirt on one side, and I'm going to use my hands, and I pull that plastic snug and line it up, and then we're going to cover the edge like so. Move on down here. Now, I didn't do this with a shovel, but it's loose enough. I'm going to just do it by hand, but when I know the length where I need to stop, I just go ahead and kind of cut off the end of my row. So, you know, like I said, it looks like a box sitting on top of the ground with trenches on either side. Okay, now I lay my plastic over, I line up my seams, snug it up, we get dirt over the edges of it. You can reach under that dirt, pull the edge of that plastic back a little bit if you need to line it up. Now I'm just going to fold in a little bit of excess plastic here, and I'm going to take a hold of it in the middle, pull it nice and tight so it's shiny, and I'm pulling a lot of the wrinkles out. I'm not going to get them out 100% because this bag had extra wrinkles being the bottom of the box. That doesn't matter. Okay, now we're going to work up this side, and this is where it's really key to getting a nice looking hill. This last pull, you got the dirt holding it on the other side. Pull it across so that surface is nice and shiny and nice and flat, and holding it with your hand, you take some dirt and you pull it over. Now you can't be shy about dirt doing a job like this. All right, we'll get a little out of our trench. We're going to pull that tight. My hand's going to hold it. I'm going to pull dirt over the edge of it. Now I'm kind of flattening this hill even further as I go along, firms it up a little bit, makes that plastic lay nicely. All right, same thing again. Stretch it tight with your hand, pull the dirt over it. And we're to the corner now. You can go along here, you can use a rake or your hand, but smooth everything up. There's an opportunity to get a few more weeds that will probably root and grow if I don't get them out of there. Toss them over there in my compost pile. There we have our setup. Trash bag gardening. I hope you enjoyed this little segment. I hope you find it useful. I really think this is a great way to go for someone that wants to garden, that maybe doesn't have the place, maybe struggling against weeds, struggling to hold moisture. This is a simple thing you can do, inexpensive, takes a little work, but it works great. Thanks for tuning in today.